Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. It's time to talk Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Episode 4, The Great Wave. I'm here with Cheeto and Izzy, by the looks of things. How
Yeah,
you
Cheeto and Izzy. I'm
how you
good.
both doing?
I'm good.
Fantastic. So, in my opinion, another decent episode. Maybe not as necessarily as good as the previous one, but I felt things went quite swimmingly with this episode. We got to meet Adar. That was a bit of a letdown, really, in my opinion, because we saw him briefly and then we saw him a little bit more, but there was not much more to him. But we also saw the the inevitable destruction of Numenor in the vision of the Queen as well, which was an interesting main plot, I believe, of the entire show. It's hard to know what the main plots are because this is like Games of Thronesy to a degree. There are important storylines happening all over in this episode, and it's hard to determine which one is more important than the others. While we're following Arondir and his love for Bronwyn and Theo, the little bastard son, we're also following Galadriel as well, and all that stuff, as well as you know, God, I forgot his name, but the the elf
Oh, it
played
starts with an
by
A.
the elf played by fucking Hugo Weaving.
Oh, Elrond.
Elron. There we go. Elron and Durin as well. So there's a whole bunch of things going on, which is very interesting. No half-foots in this episode, though. Unfortunately, they gave them a break this time round. But yeah, what do you think of this episode?
I thought it was pretty good. I was more drawn to um the orc parts and the Elrond and Durin parts of this episode. I'm kind of glad there were no half foots. The half foots are endearing, but I feel like they're at least in the last episode there was a bit too much of them. I feel like. I don't know. I'm not feeling the half foot thing. It's like, hey, let's have a Hobbit show, and then it's like, yeah, let's not. like, but yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed a lot of the lore building that they did in this episode. Um, I actually did a live watch along with a famous Lord of the Rings YouTuber. Not I wasn't with him, but I watched. I was a part of the watch along. Um, and it was actually very interesting because there's a lot of people that know a lot of things about this, and it made me realize how little I know. The destruction of Numenor and how that's supposed to be in Tolkien's vision versus what Amazon is going to do. There's actually quite a stark difference between what's happening here that we know of. Now they could kind of just be doing it differently, but getting to the same end. But the destruction of Numenor obviously is a mainstay portion of the Second Age, and kind of a turning point for a lot of things in the Tolkien verse. So it's interesting. I've been kind of digging into it this past week, and I'm not going to say I'm anywhere near knowing anything more than I did before, but I definitely feel like I'm on the right path to learning more about the universe that Tolkien built. I'm sorry, Professor Tolkien built.
I I've been going. I've been reading Fellowship of the Ring again, and it just reminded me of how much was not in the movie The Fellowship of the Ring. Uh, and also, obviously, at the end of Return of the King, we don't have the scenario between the hobbits and Sauron like it is
Yeah,
in
the
the book.
scorching of the Shire.
Yeah. So I'm willing to forgive television and movie adaptations as long as they somehow are reasonably respectable to the source material.
I agree.
It can't always be carbon copies, but nevertheless, there was moments when I saw Numenor and I thought, wow, this looks so much like Gondor. It's unreal. It felt like I
Well,
was
and
on top of the mountain.
there's reasons for that. As I said, I'm not. I mean, there's a lot of carryover from Numenor to Gondor.
Yeah,
And as we talked last week about them starting to build Gondor, I either Gondor needs to already be built or it needs to be because I'm trying to figure out the timeline here because I don't know if if the events that are happening here are going to lead up to the end of the Second Age in a human lifetime. You know what I mean? So but we'll see. I don't know. But also, I believe, um, I believe that the Numenorians live longer because they're kind of like an like their island is like a I don't want to say it's like magic, but it's kind of like the Baku planet in Star Trek to
Yeah, I get you.
so
I mean,
I believe they live longer. So we could see significant jumps in between things that are happening, and we could see same characters, but I don't know how long the Numenorians live for. But I know it seems like it's kind of like Aragorn. Remember how Aragorn, even though he was
oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Aragon, he was 80 years old in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so
he was the last of his kind as well.
yeah, so I mean he uh I'm just trying to think here. Like I'm trying to see how to
Yeah,
explain this. And not
because he's obviously related to the people from that island.
yeah, so
So,
Numenorians live longer. But when I was thinking, oh, a human lifetime, honestly, I backtrack on that because I'm like, crap, these Numenorians live longer than normal humans. So it probably won't be a human lifetime.
yeah, and see, my thing is, yeah, and they like, how much longer do they live?
I
Like,
think
I
it's
mean,
like 250 years. Hold on, I'd have to look it up. You go ahead. Go ahead and keep on going with whatever and
okay, so I basically want to like talk about the three main plot lines in this episode. I think we'll start off obviously as we're talking about Numenor. We'll start off with Galadriel, and she's basically demanding to get back to Middle Earth, isn't she?
um
Um,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. 350 to 400 years.
that's a long time.
So that's what I'm saying. Like I renege on my saying, oh, it has to be in a human lifetime, not with Numenorians. So the people that we're seeing here that are in the battle for Middle Earth might be like they could have been like 150 to 200 years old at that point. Even the dad could have been almost like 350 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like so that's why I'm saying I kind of renege what I said last week. So
It would still take it would still take pretty much the entire island to chisel the shit out of that mountain.
oh
A
yeah,
mountain, you know, what I mean,
yeah,
to make it what it is. But we're talking stone craftsmanship of the highest order. But you can see with the island that they're living on that they are able to create that highest order. But we see Galadriel. I know she's desperate to get back. She's not taking any shit. I love the way she goes. There's a tempest in me. Like she's very very badass, and she's not willing to let down, and she's even willing to go over the head of the Queen Regent by wanting to speak to the father, and that doesn't pan out too well for her, and she ends up getting thrown behind bars so easily. May I, considering she was able to deal with the King's guards so easily when they opened up to release her, and she threw them all in jail as well, which was a bit unusual. But we do see some, what do you call it, like that the guy the Hellbrand beat up, he's like causing some disturbance,
mm-hmm.
and then we see like the sort of like second in command, I guess, like the hand of the queen, so to speak. The guy who looks a bit like Michael Sheen, that actor.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we see him coming along and basically, convincing the crowd, look, it's only one elf, don't be worried and stuff like that. The queen's obviously worried because she's got this premonition that the whole island's gonna fucking get destroyed.
Yep.
And so eventually, when they do let Galadriel finally go, because she jumps to conclusions herself because she's so desperate to see the king, she doesn't even realize the king might be sick, and the king obviously is sick, which is why the queen is in charge. But she does finally go, and that's when the premonitions are starting to come to light, because we see the tree starting to lose its petals and stuff, don't we? And that's basically saying, okay, shit's about to go down. And so I believe from what I saw in the episode, it looked like obviously Galadriel was fucking off, but I believe she might have got called back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the queen announces, look, we're getting the fuck out of here. And I think these people are the future Gondorians, if the men and women of the West, so to speak. that's who they are. They're going to be heading to Middle Earth, and they're leaving all of their shit behind. And we see people like Isildur and all of that
I don't.
volunteer to man the ships.
I don't think they're leaving everything behind, but I think that the wilting of the tree was kind of a premonition that they're making the wrong choice, and I think they're trying to change that course. Because
But they are leaving, though. They are leaving. So,
yeah, but I don't know if it's everybody. I think they said they're going to aid Middle Earth. At least that's what I thought. I
well,
mean, maybe.
from
Go ahead.
watching a second time, it looked like they were packing their bags and they were getting the fuck out of there because they knew that the whole island was going to be destroyed, and it
Oh,
made no
okay.
sense. It made no sense for them to stay. And the queen was giving her commands. Obviously, Numenor is a fantastic place. It's beautiful. It's probably very lush. It's got lots of food, probably a lot of sources. It's got like obviously water and everything. It's got everything they need, but still they have to go, and that's what I feel is what's going to happen. In my opinion, whether some stay behind because they're stubborn and thinking that they got more stuff for themselves because everyone else is gone. We'll see how that pans out, but yeah, it looks like they're definitely moving on, and these look like the people of Gondor. It is amazing how when you're watching something, Cheeto, and you think, how the hell does this work? How are they going to make you understand all of this? But considering you mentioned the age limit of these people and the fact that now we are seeing them moving because of a premonition, it's starting to make a bit of sense now. From last
Hmm.
week when we couldn't even fucking understand shit, this week, yeah, I've seen the pieces come together a little bit, which is pretty cool. Anything you want to add?
No, I mean you're pretty much hitting it up. I mean yeah, it's kind of. I mean it's all leading to one place, which we know. It just depends on how much. I'm just trying to think like how much we're gonna get in one season versus the entire show. Like, is the Battle of Middle Earth going to be the final season, or is it going to be the end of this season, and then we get to see the fallout of that going into the
Well,
Third Age?
if these people live as long as you say you do, then I think there's more to come. Regarding the Battle of Middle Earth, I don't think we'll see it this season. I mean, I think personally this season will end with the Rings of Power being all the rings being made, so to speak, being crafted. That's how I see this first season ending. Do you think we've seen Sauron yet?
I don't know. That's a big speculation because I mean some people are saying and what's his nuts on Numenor is Sauron. Some people are saying that the wizard actually is, although it's not very credible, but they're saying that the wizard character, or I'm sorry, Meteor Man, is Sauron
Neither man,
because
yeah.
some people are saying A, the Eye of Sauron in the crater, yes. B, there was a quote in this episode basically saying that mark the falling. I think it was a falling star or falling Earth or something like that, marks the coming of evil or something like that. But just because, but the way the line is said, just because they saw like the meteor saw that's just an event that begins the events. It does not say specifically that is the evil, like the whoever comes down in the meteor fall is the evil person. It just says that marks the beginning of the coming of evil.
I think
So
Sauron is that old man we see at the end.
you really think
Who
so? Did that
that I mean, I'm taking a long shot with him. I mean,
wait at the end?
he
She not
at
Meteor
the,
Man, right?
not Meteor Man. Like when after Theo comes back and he's just like chilling amongst everyone. Now he got rescued by Arendir and all of that. The old man, the one with the potatoes earlier, he has the mark of Sauron on his hand as well.
Oh,
And
I know. Oh, the one from the Southlands.
yeah, yeah, he was like a butcher in
No,
the
that's. I thought you're talking about the old man on Numenor, like the old guy with the beard and like one of the
no,
advisors
no,
or whatever.
not him.
That's not a long shot. That I could see that. I mean, they're playing they're behind the scenes long game, but then all of a sudden he just kind of comes out of nowhere and just starts raffle stomping people.
Well,
Um,
he's a master of disguise, Sauron, and I do feel that instead of maybe playing somebody of great influence, he might play somebody who the last people would think of would be Sauron, some old man. some old man who like has to do rations for potatoes and stuff like that. There is a bit of assholery about him as well, which if he's able to seep that influence to other people, then that would be ideal for someone like Sauron. And plus, he's working behind an enemy line, so he's able to spy on the very people. We got to see Adar, as I said earlier in this episode. That was a bit underwhelming, in my opinion. His whole desire seemed a bit weird. Like he's been called father by the goblins and the orcs, and he did obviously end one of their sufferings by killing that one orc at the beginning. But I'm not very convinced by him. How do you feel?
I mean, he's all right. I mean, he's a fallen elf. I think who was it? Somebody said that he might become one of the chief lieutenants of Sauron from the movies. I don't remember which one though. I know that one of the Black Numenorians, not black as in color, black. That's what they're called,
Yeah,
Black Numenorians.
Yeah, I know.
One of those Numenorians actually becomes the mouth of Sauron, which is the guy that walks out and talks to Aragorn with the really nasty teeth and everything.
Yep, he's in the special edition.
Yeah, he's not in the theatrical release.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as I said, this past week I've kind of been digging into it, and I'm like, oh shit, like what did I get into? And I'm like, I'm actually learning a lot, and I'm like, I mean, I get it. Like, there's a lot of lore here. There's probably just as much lore in this as there is in like some comic book stuff. I'm not gonna say as Marvel and DC, but because there's a lot of lore there. But like maybe say like the Spider-Man lore, instead of saying like all of Marvel, say like the Spider-Man lore, something that's been around since the 60s. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and I've been interested in digging into it.
Now,
go ahead.
I just think Adar is basically saying he's not, he doesn't want to be, he's not being seen as a god, but not yet. So he has obviously bigger ambitions in mind. He is a fallen elf, but we still don't know his reasonings. But he does have a message for Aaron there, which is he sets him free and basically tells him to go back to the village, and we find out at the end of that particular plot line was to submit to oh god, I forgot his name. Adnar. Sorry, submit to Adnar. These names, man, it's just a syllable here and then. You got somebody else.
You mean Adar, the
Adar? Yeah. Submit to Adar and all his people and stuff like that. And we'll let you live, or if you don't, we're going to kill you all. That was the message Arendelle gave to Bronwyn.
I couldn't remember if he said submit to us or if he just said leave these lands, but I think you're right. I think it was submit to us because they basically want to turn them into...
it was submit, yeah.
They want to basically eventually turn them into orcs, probably, or...
slaves.
Yeah, well, and slave labor, too, yeah.
So, but Arendelle still had to run the gauntlet. Now, with Theo, like, he goes into town with this noob, and I remember like when they're like they managed to get some rations and they filled that little cart, and I'm thinking to myself, I've seen how many people are in your village. This cart ain't gonna do shit. You know what I mean?
So when he got there,
they got fuck all. And it obviously wasn't enough. They needed to get more stuff, so I can totally understand why Theo was looking for more stuff. He goes into that room and it looks like there's barley all over the place, and he's gathering it, and then he has a fight with a goblin, and he ends up pulling out the blade, and he stabs himself with it so he could make the blade grow, and then he cuts the goblin a little bit, but then he ends up hiding in a well for most of his part. And when he does come out the world, this is where it felt like a fucking... Did it not feel like a video game for you?
It did. It felt like a fucking Metal Gear Solid or Arkham Knight video game.
Like, like they turned their head. Okay, let's move.
Hide
behind cover. Fall in the grass.
They fell in at that moment. I'm like, what kind of Assassin's Creed bullshit is this? Like the guy even walked up and had the fire up like this.
Yeah.
And, like, he's like looking, and I'm like, oh, come on. I'm like, it took me out of the episode in a funny way. Like, because I was like, yeah, it's like a fucking Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, so many video game with the stealth element, and you have somebody moves or whatever. Okay, let's move, let's walk. Let's hope he doesn't turn around from this moment onwards. You know what I mean? But
Dude, there
let's
was that
walk.
moment when he was like after he got out of the grass and he started walking.
Yeah,
Like I'm like, he literally the guy just passed and he's walking right past, like almost
yeah.
right past him, and I'm like, dude, like, how can he not hear your footsteps?
And then when he finally has that fight with the elf, and I think it's the elf he does cut. Arondir comes in with the save, but I'm surprised nobody else heard their commotion. It's not
Yeah,
like
that
there
was
was people.
also
Yeah,
when nobody heard the commotion. It was just like, okay.
but okay. So they now run, and they're running through a forest. And I forgot to mention that Theo has his leg cut,
Yeah,
so
so he was limping along.
yeah, he's limping along. And Arondir is not Legolas, like he's good with a bow, but he's not Legolas good with a bow. So like he's getting some good shots in, but still, eventually they get lucky. They run out of the woods, and the sun comes up, and it kind of saves the day for them a little bit. Gets them out of the way. And Bronwyn's there to find the sun as well, and they come back to their
Well,
hideout with.
and they were all standing there, and they all had bow and arrows, and like I know they eventually started shooting the bow and arrows, but it's like, if that kid
Yeah,
was that important because he had that sword, man, they should have been shooting those bow and arrows as soon as they hit that tree line. But they stood there for
yeah.
what, like 30 seconds to a minute, like, like I'm like, and then as they start to, and they're standing there, they're like sitting there ready to fight. And then as soon as they start to run away, then they start shooting arrows. I'm like, what the?
Now this sword as well, like we've seen it get bigger, but we haven't seen it get smaller. But it always seems to be like a stubbed hilt sword, like a broken hit tilt sword. So does it like need blood to stay big, and then after maybe an hour or two, it shrinks back to normal again? I mean, how the fuck does that work?
I don't know. I honest and truly, I have no idea.
But he was able to hide it behind his back again, like it was a small little thing, not like it was a fully developed sword.
I mean,
And
I wonder if it's kind of like a lightsaber in the magic sense. Like it kind of comes out while while you do that, and then yeah, it just kind of fizzles out once you use it or something like that. I don't
so
know.
it needs to be touching blood all the time.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
fair enough.
that's my best guess. Until we, and you're right. Like they are very fast and loose with that, and they don't really show anything. Like you saw it kind of grow, but you're right. You didn't see it go away.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what happens from here on out afterwards? I don't know. I mean, the relationship between Arondir and Bronwyn, like, are they gonna fucking kiss already? I mean, you guys pretty much look like you love each other or whatever, but I know maybe circumstances are a bit complicated right now to get all romantic, but regardless, yeah, it just seems like we're holding out for that. It does feel like that a little bit, but
Hmm.
overall, the idea storyline, it needs to progress a little bit. Uh, Obviously, they're building Mordor and stuff like that. I don't know. It seems interesting at the same time. It seems weird. I don't know what to make of this particular storyline. I mean, where does it
Well,
go?
they was who was it? Was it Daniel Vance? I think who mentioned that possibly the trenches that they are building right now will become like possibly would become the dead marshes. Remember where they're passing through the dead marshes and it's all like swampland and you see all the
Yeah, yeah,
body when
yeah,
if
yeah.
Frodo, Sam, and Gollum are passing through. So that I think Daniel Vance was the one saying maybe because that's literally right outside of Mordor, I think, isn't it? Like they pass through those marshes to get to the gate of Mordor.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like the land between Mordor and Gondor, isn't it? Those
Yeah, so
marshes.
maybe that's where, yeah, maybe that area does turn it like, and all those people who died, because I mean, they still have all those, like the elves were doing the work, but then the humans were in cages. So, like, what were the humans for? Were they turning them into orcs, or were they just,
Meat.
yeah, I say, or were they just food? Like, um, so I don't know.
So,
I mean, but maybe, yeah, maybe that whole area turns into the dead marshes for all the people that the orcs killed and it's a cursed place and blah 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 and whatever. I mean, whatever they're doing. So
yeah, it's the least interesting of the three storylines for me at this moment in time. I mean, maybe more interesting what's happening with the Half-Foots and stuff with Spaceman Gandalf. Even though I don't think he is Gandalf, I think he might be Sauron.
No,
Um,
I think he's a blue wizard. Like I think he's one of the blue
yeah,
wizards. I
yeah,
think there's two of
okay.
them.
Well, there is a theory that Tom Bombadil is a blue wizard. Have you heard about that theory?
No,
Because he wears a blue outfit and stuff like that, but he wasn't obviously seen in the films. But in the
Yeah.
books, Tom Bombadil's there, and he wears a hat and stuff like that, and there's something quite magical about him, and because he wears a blue coat and stuff like that, people assume that he's one of the blue wizards. But anyway, maybe he's Tom Bombadil.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yep. That's a
maybe he's Tom
possibility.
Bombadil. Yeah.
With this, I have no idea. As I said, I've only chipped the very tippy top surface of the um of the lore. So I mean, I am getting invested. I'm not gonna lie. I'm getting invested in the lore and the show. So I was actually pretty excited to talk about this today.
So so on to Elrond and Durin. Elrond's mentor. What's his name again?
Starts with an H.
Let me see.
But I'm really feeling the bromance between Durin and Elrond. I mean, like they do have their issues, and I mean, elves and dwarves have always had that like, like one-upsmanship relationship type thing. It's very funny with Durin is like, Durin's more. I'm trying to think of how to say it. Durin is more competitive and he's a little bit more butthurt about him not coming back and seeing him. But I still it's Celebrimbor is what
Yeah,
his name.
Celebrimbor. Yeah, I got it here. Yeah, Celebrimbor. Um,
But
it's
yeah,
funny.
oh, go ahead.
He's an old looking elf. I thought elves don't look old. You know what I mean? They maintain their youthful looks forever. But he
Mm,
looks like he's middle aged or like older than middle aged for fuck's sake. Um, Considering they're eternal beings. All right, Celebrimbor, like he's being given the cold shoulder by Durin, because the elves and the dwarves are supposed to be working together. So he sends Elrond to Khazad Dûm to speak to Durin and find out what the fuck's going on. And Durin doesn't happen to be there, but Durin's wife is there, and she is Disa, I believe,
mhm.
and she's spinning up a yarn as well, but she's doing a good job of it. But she's obviously feeding Elrond some bullshit. Elrond then, uses his elf-like abilities to find out that Durin is actually still in Khazad Dûm, and he's able to read his lips and understand that he's doing some digging. Now, a lot of people are talking about the birth of the Balrog here, but I just feel that's way too soon. Like when Gimli went into Khazad Dûm in the Fellowship of the Rings, like he was still expecting people to be there and stuff, and next everything got fucked over because of a Balrog.
Well, but
Um,
I think Gimli is from a different dwarven clan than the ones from Khazad Dûm. But I get I get what you're saying. I'm not. As I said, this is where they're kind of playing it fast and
yeah,
loose.
he's the Lonely Mountain group because his dad was part of the group who went with Gandalf and Bilbo to reclaim the Lonely Mountain from Smaug.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was part of the Battle of the Five Armies.
So I mean, I get what you're saying, but there was also a period. I mean, those bones were pretty old that were in there when they were in there in Lord, and that's how it was in the book. So
We are talking we're talking thousands of years. You're telling me he wouldn't they wouldn't have known between 5,000 years or whatever. It was 5,000 years between Fellowship of the Ring and the Battle of Middle Earth. You know, I just I'm not sure. I mean, it's hard to say, but when Elrond does go down into the mines to find out what the hell Durin's up to, Durin catches him, sees him, and basically tells him, Mithril, baby. We're getting a Mithril origin story. How do you feel about that?
I mean, that's fine. I mean, I don't have any particular I don't know what the word is, like
Well,
fondness to Mithril, but I mean
it's
it's a Final Fantasy thing
it's
also.
the it's the vibranium of Middle Earth, man. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? So, but yeah, like it's the new ore, amazing stuff that you can see. Um, no pun intended. They were in awe of the ore, but yeah, Mithril, and I like the way they did the translation of it as well. And during being friends with Elrond, lets him keep a little bit of it. Here you go, about £5 billion I'm giving you right now. Knock yourself out.
So you are correct, Zam. In the 900 or in the 1980th year of the Third Age, ambitious dwarven miners in Khazad-dûm stumbled across the Balrog. So that's in the Third Age. We're not even near the Third Age. So yeah, you're right. It's
So, if that's the case, what was causing all that commotion? For is it just like unstable minds or whatever?
maybe, or maybe they do unearth the Balrog and then it doesn't get
They send
out.
it
You
back
know
to
what I
the
mean? Like
they send it back to the shadow
yeah,
and
maybe
all of
like
that.
they
Yeah.
encounter it, but it doesn't just like get because what happens is the Balrog gets out, but also goblins move in. Well, goblin orcs. So, but I mean, you're right. Like so it definitely is nowhere near right now.
Yeah. I think it's like if they did release the Balrog and they are able to contain it, and then 5,000 years go by, that also means that there's a long time for truth to turn into legend, and then to be hearsay because 5,000 years ain't to fuck around with. I mean, we haven't even got when it comes to our own historic history as man, we can only go back a couple of thousand years ourselves. Then things start to get pretty hazy. But nevertheless, uh, if there is the Balrog, I hope they contain it, and that way when it comes back in the future, um,
Well,
it's not
and
too much of an
there was
issue.
you could tell there was a bit of contention because Durin was wanting to keep digging. So maybe that is what stops them from digging because it like because it says that they dug too deep. So I mean, maybe they kind of as I said, maybe they encounter the Balrog and they decide not to keep digging that way, and maybe they find another vein or something like that. But you know, um,
The ore of mithril is something it's a rare metal, no doubt, but they are
and
able
maybe
to
that's why
obtain.
it's rare is because they can't dig any deeper right now. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
because they
they
encounter the
obviously get
Balrog.
enough of it, enough of it to make a chainmail vest out of it. So we'll see if we see the origins of that vest as well. Do we see the origins of that vest? Some say they heard the Balrog when the mines collect. I thought I heard it too, to tell you the truth. Wrestling Lowdown. Um, that's why I was wondering it. I was wondering, but when the problem with this show, to a degree, is that they've gone back 5 millennia or more. So it's very hard to connect the dots between something that happened 5,000 years ago to what's going to be happening, in the future trilogy of the Lord of the Rings. I mean, if I see a Gollum reference, I'll be even more pissed off because he's not even born yet. Maybe he just starts. He's just starting to wake up. Balrog is in the trailer. Is in the trailer? Is he? Okay. Well, yeah. Like I said, I'm hoping they're able to contain it, deal with it, and go, we will never speak of this again, or some yada yada yada. And obviously, he comes back in the
Put your
future.
hand on the rock
Yeah.
and vow we never speak of this again.
Yeah. But
And
yeah.
and
So
I love Elrond's face when he's like, he doesn't say it, but his face says everything. He's like, "You want me to put my hand on the rock right here and make a vow to the rock?" So I love how he threw in there on my family. He made it personal for him. He's like on the vow of my family and blah 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 blah. And I thought that's why I really like these two because their chemistry's great. I hope we get to see
yeah,
more of them.
I like Durin a lot. He's been becoming very quickly one of my favorite characters in this show, and I like the dwarves in general. Like they are very passionate. They're loyal, but they're passionate.
Mhm.
Extremely passionate. Extremely emotional people. They like to have a good time, but they are easily offended and upset if you let them down. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but Durin was going behind his dad's back. You know, Durin was digging even though his dad didn't want him to dig, and so when it came to after like we see the mines collapse, but the dwarves in the mine do get rescued eventually, obviously off screen. We do get Durin confronting his father and basically apologizing, but his father forgives him, you know, and says that you're my son. There's nothing to apologize for. Sometimes in anger, I'm more by your side than you know. Like I can't remember how the phrase went, but it was a good phrase, saying I'm always by your side, but even more so in anger or something along those lines. So yeah, but he then basically tells his son, yeah, the elves, you know, there's more to them than just you building something for them, isn't there? And Durin agrees, and so his dad tells him, okay, fine, go and pay them a visit, agree to do what they will ask you to do, and then find out really what the fuck is going on. You know what I mean? So in a way, Durin's going to be a bit of a spy, and it'll be interesting now to see Durin in the elf part of the world because we've seen Elrond in his part of the world, and now it's going to be the other way around, and how he's going to be taken to elvish customs and all of that, and he's going to be probably quite irritated by them. He's going to probably have a company of dwarfs with him as well. I don't think he's going to be going solo. You know, he is the king's son after all, the prince.
And I mean,
So,
in my opinion, dwarves, except for the Hobbit movies, which I only watched once, I really feel like the dwarves just were never. I mean, in the Lord of the Rings movies, and as I said, I've never read the books, and I'm just starting to dive into the lore, so I'm upfront about that. Just the dwarves are not explored very much. You know what I mean? Like you get Gimli in Lord of the Rings, and you get the Mines of Moria, which are abandoned. But this is our first look into the dwarves, like actual look. And as I said, I know there's a bunch of extended or not extended canon, but you know what I mean, like extended universe stuff in the books and the Silmarillion and all these other things about the dwarves. But I'm actually glad to see these things that I've been hearing about with the dwarves.
yeah, likewise. So, everything's kind of left open now for the next episode. We're going to see how the humans or the men, so to speak, who are under the supervision of Arondir and Bronwyn, deal with the goblin threat and the orc threat. The one thing they have on their side is sunlight, but when it gets dark, they better get their shit together. You know, what I mean, if anything, they might as well be awake during the night and sleeping during the day because that's when it's safest. Um, we have now, I believe, the people of Numenor now heading towards Middle Earth, potential Gondorians, and we also have now Durin going to the land. The name escapes me, but where the elves are working, where they have all their sort of engineer work and they're building their shit. They're gonna
I don't
have the
remember the
dwarves
name of the
there.
city. It's not Rivendell. I don't remember the name of the city.
Well, whatever they help them build is going to be to build the rings of power. And once again, one of these people could be Sauron. It does feel almost like that. Like who is Sauron? You know what I mean? Where may he be? You know,
I
was
mean,
he
and
all of them?
I think they're doing a pretty good job about it. I think the Meteor Man is too obviously a wizard, and if it does turn out Meteor Man is Sauron, it's a bit too cliche. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, it just feels cliche. You know, the guy, and then like the meteor
I
was
don't
in the
think
eye, and
I don't think he's remotely Sauron. There's nothing about him that makes you feel like that when he's not around other people that he's not putting
he's
on an
also
act
talking to the
because
bugs,
yeah,
Gandalf. But then again, that could be Sauron also. Sauron may not be a wizard, but he definitely has wizard-like dark magic powers. So you never know. You know, maybe
yeah.
Sauron's just maybe he just doesn't remember.
I just feel like the way Meteor Man's acting
Yeah.
even when he's alone, he just doesn't come across as someone like Sauron.
Well, what if he
You
does?
know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Like, what if he doesn't know he's Sauron? And it's very cliche that it's like, oh, the bad guy comes. The bad guy's been around us all along, but he doesn't remember until it's too late. Now all of a sudden he's a threat. I
I,
mean,
I mean, I'll say it like this: my mind is nowhere near him being Sauron, but if it is, you better make it worth my while. You know, like
Yeah.
if he does turn out to be Sauron, then I would love to see. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like Sauron could be jumping between places. I think he might be everywhere. I think he might be with the dwarfs. You know, I think he might be with he might be a Numenor, and he also might be with the men of the Southlands. I think he could be jumping between all the locations, changing character. I don't agree to this theory, but some are saying it might be Elrond's father because he became Star, hence Falling Star. He's Sauron, but his father's dead.
But that's what he means. His father became a star, and then hence the falling star. I haven't heard that theory yet. I believe Saruman or a blue wizard. Ooh, Saruman. I don't know about that. I mean, the late great Christopher Lee.
The White Wizard. I mentioned that's what I was saying regarding Saruman being. I just feel like
I think it's a blue wizard. Honestly, I feel like the blue wizards came before, any of the other wizards, like the what Radagast, what's his name?
Radagast.
Radagast, the brown, Gandalf the gray, Saruman the white. Like I think the blue wizards came before any of them. I think the blue wizards were the original ones to come. I think. I mean, I may be wrong. As I said, not a lore person, but all of the reading that I've done so far and the lore diving that I've done, it always mentions the blue wizards first. So it makes me believe that the blue wizards came before anyone else.
I might be having people pulling their hair out their heads right now, but my mind is possibly on Tom Bombadil, being that guy. And if it's not, and people say he can't be Tom Bombadil because of blah 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 blah. You read the fucking books, man. All right, fair enough. But if that's where I'm kind of going with it right now. And regarding the fact that if he is a wizard, where the fuck are the other wizards, and when they're going to start coming into play?
I think
they're all going to fall out
I
the
don't think
sky
they
and
all
shit
come
like
at
that.
once.
Okay, yeah, I'm just curious. And other places, sorry, about to yawn here, but are other places already built, like the Isengard Tower? You know, is that built or does that need to be built? You know, just off Ferngulm Forest, all of those sort of places. You know, is Helm's Deep built? You know, is there a king in Rohan? You know,
Rohan was built. I think Rohan was built after the battle for Middle Earth.
I thought the wizard came on the ship. Well, which wizard would that be? All of them, or one of them?
I honestly don't know. I'd have to. I'm not going to pretend like I know. As I said,
exactly.
I'm still digging into the lore.
And other wizards immortal because they're always just old great dudes. You know what I mean? Because I know obviously Gandalf was in the Hobbit films, and they're set 60 years before the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and Ian McKellen still looked pretty much the same, even though he was 10 years older when he did that. All of them, fair enough. And where does that ship come from? Yeah, it's like, yeah, so it's just like so many, still more questions need to be answered. But I do feel that even though I not necessarily got my question answered in this episode, I felt I saw some pieces coming together. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm seeing an answer unfold in real time that will come together as a complete answer later on down the line. And I hope it makes sense to me too. Okay, I think we're done here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got anything more to add?
Nope. If the tall meteor man turns out to be Sauron, I want him to just rip shreds through all of the half-foots. Extinction level event right there. No,
no, that's not possible, is it? You know what I mean? But they are the hobbits of the future.
I know.
I just want to say to anyone who's still watching that I have done a trailer review of Dharma, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. The trailer came out yesterday, I believe, and I just did a reaction to it. So please check that out. It looks like a really good film. I mean, have you seen the trailer? You saw the trailer for that, didn't you?
I have not.
Oh, have a check it out. It's got Evan Peters, Pietro himself, Pietro Maximoff, aka Ralph Boner. You know, playing, doing a role that you're surprised to see him do, and he looks, playing a serial killer, cannibal, dissector, mass murderer. Like he's knocking out the park. And I'm not really into those films, but because of Evan Peters and the fact that it's a true story, I will probably watch it. But yeah, the trailer reaction is on YouTube. Please check that out. Did that yesterday. As well as check out all our other stuff. We've got we've got reviews for all the latest stuff within pop culture, like She-Hulk, like Star Trek Lower Decks, like Game of Thrones, and of course like Lord of the Rings as well, and as well as all the other computer game trivia and stuff like that, which has come out this past 7 days. We've got it all here
There
on
is a
YouTube.
plethora of content on this channel.
Yes, swimming for you to swim in. So please check it out. So make sure you stay with us, because there'll be more to come. Who knows? There might be something popping up within the next 24 hours that we have to jump on, and you'll see that as well. Because we're quite spontaneous here on the tube as well. There's a whole bunch of us in this group. Yes, exactly. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube. Thank you very much, Cheeto.
Hey, no problem.
And to you all out there, take care, live long, and prosper.